Hey everyone, it's Vice. Welcome back. This is Making Wrestling Work. We peel back the curtain. We figure out what happens to make what we know and love as pro wrestling work. And today I got a good guest. Oh, good friend of mine. We've known each other for a while.
We
The
have.
amazing Turbo Tony. Tony, how's it going?
What's up, man? It's going pretty good. I'm pumped to be here. We've been talking about this for what now, like all year, I think, at this point. So 7 months almost.
I think I've been talking about doing something like this for well over a year.
Yeah.
And you and I have worked together several times. First met back in the DWO days. That's about 8 years ago, something like that. I want to say
2025. Yeah. So like 8 years ago ish was 7, 8 years ago is when those days ended.
yeah, something like that.
So
I caught on right towards the tail end, and you had hair back then.
I had hair back then. I still have hair now. This is just because I hate helmet hair and I like riding my motorcycle. So
Perfect answer. And that's what got us Turbo Tony. And how did we get to Turbo Tony? You started, it was about 15 years ago, I believe, is about when that started. And you're not from New Mexico originally.
no, I'm originally from New York City. So when I lived in New York, I grew up about a half a mile away from Yankee Stadium. Well, now the Yankee Stadiums, because they opened the new one across the street from the old one, which is hilarious to see. But so that's where I grew up. When I was 15, me, my mom, and my brother, we moved out here to Albuquerque, and that was the year 2000. So for most of the time since then, I've been in Albuquerque. There've been a couple of breaks from Albuquerque. There was a year in Florida. There was half a year in Australia, and a couple short stints in Phoenix. But yeah, overall, I've just been Albuquerque ever since 2000.
And I got you into wrestling at a certain point. You started training with a few names. I'll let you tell us about that. But that was about 15 years ago, and that was where was that exactly? I forget.
So that was here in Albuquerque. So I didn't really, a lot of wrestlers, most wrestlers come up with some version of the watched it as a kid story, right? Like watched it as a kid and they knew that that's what they always wanted to do. Or like there's the pictures or the old school VHS footage of them with the championship belt or them playing with figurines and all that. I don't have any of that. I didn't even know wrestling existed until like 99 when a friend in high school just introduced me to it, started talking about The Rock. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Whatever. So he told me to watch it one night. I watched it and I was hooked ish ever since. But that got me just like in the door for wrestling. And so fast forward maybe about 8 years at that point, 9 years to 2008. I was at a DWO show. I was at the National Guard Armory, right down the street from where I am, actually down by Wyoming and I-40. And the Armory was double booked. So the show ended up happening outside. So I sat down, watched the show, and the show ended. I didn't have anything else going on for that day because I didn't know how long the show was going to go. So I just planned to be there till whenever. And it started to rain. So I decided to help take the ring apart and help load it on the truck and try to do whatever I can to help everybody else get done and get out of there as quick as possible. And, as what always happens when you're taking apart a wrestling ring, you end up pairing off with somebody else because most of the stuff was really heavy. And back then I was about 50 pounds lighter than I am now. So everything there was really heavy. And I got to talking with somebody while we were carrying stuff that went by the name Josh Payne. And if you know your New Mexico wrestling history, you know the name Josh Payne. And we got to talking about wrestling. He brought up the fact that they were looking for more people that wanted to wrestle if interested. So he asked me if I was interested. And me making the logical decision as a massively underweight person that had no physical background, that played no sports in high school, no sports in college. The most active thing I did was playing an endurance race in Gran Turismo. Decided to say, yes, I would love to try to do this thing with my body when I have no idea how to control it. And so the next week I was at a spot training, learning how to move in a wrestling ring and trying to pick up the first sport I ever attempted.
And so you had no knowledge of how it worked. essentially when you got in there?
I knew how it worked. So even though I didn't really get introduced to it as an idea until 1999, I found out real quick how everything worked. And I was in high school in 2002, I think. Must have been 2002, because I did a presentation in a communication skill class about the TLC ladder match at WrestleMania 17, and it was this big whole presentation about the big controversial question about whether it's real or not. And we talked about, I showed clips of people going through tables and falling off ladders, and the infamous Jeff Hardy Edge spear off the ladder from the title all the way down to the canvas. And we talked about, regardless of what's going on, how much those things would just hurt anyway. So I already knew how that side of things worked, but I still didn't know how to make my body do those things. And so that's what I was trying to figure out.
So did they start you off easy? Did you have to earn your way a particular way, or did they really just educate you very, very well from the get-go?
They educated me physically very well from the start. So when you're as tall as I am, when you're about 6 feet tall, when you're 130, 135 pounds, anything hurts, anything bruises you. There's not a whole lot of meat on your body to cushion it, to protect it from injury. So I was always hurt. So that led to me getting in the gym, and that led to me actually being able to put on muscle and break this idea that I was a hard gainer, which is now a term I no longer believe in. And we can get into that later on, because people will fight me on that, and I will always fight them, and I will always win because of what I've learned. But anyway, that's beside the point. So they taught me the basics. They taught me in a good order, right? They taught me how to move around in the ring. So they taught the basic footwork. They taught me how to wrestle, right? Basic chain wrestling. They taught me all that. They taught me the what you could say basic moves, your suplexes, your body slams, things like that. And we talked a lot about psychology of building matches, of telling stories, of how to actually entertain via wrestling versus just going in there and just doing moves, if that makes sense. And so, that whole first chapter took maybe about a year. Sounds about right. Before I even had a match. So, I started training in 2008. I didn't have my first match until fall of 2009. And which is great. The only reason I know that so well is because it just popped up and became a thing in a future match that I have coming up next month, which we can get into that as well. And so, you learn enough to have a match, get through it ideally safely, not get massively injured. And then you come back and you sit back, you watch the match over, and you go, okay, cool. What's next? So I had this match. That's done. What can you learn from it? How can you be better for the next match? And it's basically just that cycle on repeat for the rest of your wrestling career, or it should be anyway. And so, over the years, there were a couple breaks that I took. There was about a total of 5 years that I took off. There was one break I took that was 2 years, another that was 3 years around COVID times, though it was completely unrelated to COVID. And so whenever anybody asks me how long I've been wrestling, I just automatically subtract those 5, because I don't feel like those 5 should count, because I wasn't doing anything in the ring. And there have been chapters in my wrestling, right? There have been chapters that started with the DWO crew, with the Josh Paynes and the Dexter Derange and Johnny K. So that was a chapter. Then there was a chapter in Florida with Team 3D Academy. Then there was a chapter that I'm still in right now with Gino Rivera at Off the Ropes Wrestling. And there was a chapter in between of those, kind of maybe a few years ago, with your Mosh Pit Mike over in Thunder, and you had Thunder on before. And so those are all chapters that built and shaped different versions and different pieces of Tony the wrestler.
And then Tony the professional wrestler, did you have to go through different kind of characterizations for yourself? Because the character you have now, the wrestler you portray now, is pretty much just you, essentially. which doesn't always work for some wrestlers. But did you have anything before that?
So I had, where are we now? So if we count the current version, if we count Antoine Giovanni, that's number 4. Yeah. So that's number 4. That's the fourth version, right? 4.0. And so initially the first version, now that there's a picture floating around from me from my very first match, and it's insane to see that. And just because like I see what I'm wearing and I'm like, wow. And I'm wearing what I'm wearing because I was just super self-conscious and I had no confidence in how I looked. So like I'm in a t-shirt, I'm in baggy shorts, and it's just like I was ready to wrestle, but I wasn't ready to be in front of people. I still have that some days now, but that's different. And so that was a token Tony was the character, was that version, was the 1.0, basically because for most of the time I was basically the only black person in the local Albuquerque scene at that time. There were others before, but at that particular moment it was just me. So that version was okay. It got me in the door, got me in the ring, which was fine. I never really gelled with that at all. And so eventually it became Turbo Tony because I started getting comfortable with bringing some more of myself into the wrestling character. So Turbo Tony came out of my love for fast cars, motorcycles, racing, all that stuff, right? So that ran for a while. And then I had this really fun experience with the wrestler Josh Carey, and we were part of a group called the Fit and Tan Society. So you make the abbreviation out of that, you get the Fat Society. And so we would come out. I
wasn't gonna say it's just.
Oh no, that's a part of it. That's a part of the story.
Okay, I'm following.
It was deliberate. And so we would come out, right? I had this. I didn't even think to have this ready because I still have it actually. But I had this book. It was maybe about this big, and it had felt animal print around the edge, and it was the Book of Carey. And inside this book was thousands and thousands of facts about Josh Carey's accomplishments and his feats. And so we would come out and we would educate the masses to the greatness that they were about to witness, because Josh Carey decided to bless the Albuquerque area with yet another wrestling performance. We would come out, we would try to motivate people to get in shape. We would try to motivate people to better themselves. Most people didn't really take all that well to it. And eventually we split, and that was fine. And I took a break at that point just for, I don't even remember why I took a break here, but this is that 2-year break. So we could just fast forward those 2 years. Came back, went back to Turbo Tony, gave that a more serious run. So I started modeling my tights after cars I liked or after like teams I liked. Like the first set of gear that I had for Turbo Tony was a combination silver blue. So it was basically modeled after Brian O'Connor's Skyline in the second Fast and the Furious movie.
Ooh.
So it was the same stripe pattern that was on the side of the car went down the side of my legs.
So much connection there.
I still have them. They're one of my favorite pairs of tights. It's that and the second one, which is also for Turbo Tony, which is modeled after the current uniform for Red Bull Racing. So it's red, it's blue, it's got a little bit of yellow. Just basically, if you go look up the Red Bull F1 team's race uniform, it's basically that. I basically just sent that to a gear designer and I was like, I want that in wrestling tight form. And that's exactly what she made. It's been great. And I wore those for a pretty long time, actually, until maybe last year when they finally started getting a little too worn for my liking. So, and Turbo Tony's been cool. Turbo Tony's been fine. Help me get comfortable with being more me in the ring, which is great, right? Because there's something super powerful about that. But in starting to wrestle again in Albuquerque, now that wrestling's starting to blossom, because we started off, right? We had basically post-COVID, we had DWE for a while, right?
That's right.
And then we had Duke City Championship Wrestling, who we still have right now. And then we have a sort of flourishing of wrestling in New Mexico overall, because not only do we have Duke City Championship Wrestling, we now have Phase 1 Pro Wrestling. We also have Off the Ropes doing a couple shows a year. And I'm one of the few that's lucky enough to be on all of those shows. It's basically me and Tommy Test that we get to do all 3 of those shows, which is amazing. And there was an interesting thing that happened at one point, which was Duke City Championship Wrestling back in the Thursday era of our shows.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah, they had me wrestle as Turbo Tony, as the fan favorite Turbo Tony on a Thursday. And then I went to go wrestle at a Phase 1 show that following Saturday, 48 hours later. And they're like, I remember when we saw you at the beginning of Duke City, and you weren't quite so nice, we'll say. You weren't quite so law abiding. We want that guy. So I was like, yes, I like that guy too. Let's do it. It felt weird to me to be like the same Turbo Tony, but completely different attitudes 2 days apart in the same city. And so I was like, all right, I got to do something different. I gotta break these two people apart. And so that gave birth last summer to the current version of Tony that I'm trying to just get everywhere. And that is Antoine Giovanni. And so that's if you go see me in Phase 1, that's who you'll see. If you see me at an Off the Rope show, that's who you'll see. If you see me at the moment, those are the 2 places where you get Antoine Giovanni. Everywhere else, you're still and if you go to Phoenix, you go to PCW, you go to Slam, you see Antoine Giovanni there. Basically at Duke City, you still see Turbo Tony. If you see me at Rocky Mountain, you still see Turbo Tony. I'm working to try to just kind of push that away because I like Antoine Giovanni more, and most people seem to like Antoine Giovanni more as well. So it seems like an easy win for all parties involved. And so the interesting thing is Antoine Giovanni is actually way more indicative of like who I am actually. Most people think that like Antoine Giovanni is a more fictionalized version of me, and I'm just like, no, that's actually the version that is like that bounces around in my head for days and weeks, and I just keep the lid on that son of a bitch.
That's the what do you call that? It's the intrusive thoughts of Tony.
Yeah,
is that what that is?
Yeah, it's the intrusive thoughts, and you know they hit my music, and I just take the key in that box and I go, it's time to play. So yeah.
Music will do it. As soon as you hit the music, you enter in a new character, and
yeah. So it's another version of me getting to be me, but me getting to. It's an interesting way to explain it right now and maybe it's because I'm getting more opportunity to be Antoine Giovanni, but it's a lot of the thoughts, mindsets, attitudes that I try to keep locked away for trying to just get along with the flow sort of thing, right? And just be a little more easygoing. The interesting part is as I become more Antoine Giovanni, he's starting to bleed out of the ring, and so that's just becoming my new default. And the more I see it happen, the more I'm just like, you know what, just let it run, because it feels natural is really what it feels like. So maybe not quite to the degree that you would see Antoine Giovanni, but I don't really know that it's that far off.
So you talked about all these places that you've been, all these journeys that you've had, and you've got lots of experiences to take in with you. For example, all these wrestling training schools or coaches that you've had in many different places. That's taught you many different ways to approach your in-ring work. Is there particular takeaways depending on where you go that you add to your repertoire, throughout your career?
Yeah. So each chapter, right? We went over all the chapters, which are basically centered around the people that I trained with. Each chapter laid a really important foundational block for me as a wrestler. So the DWO crew, right? Your Josh Payne, Dex, Johnny, and everybody that I trained with at that point, they laid the very foundational blocks of this is how you move in a ring. This is how you put together a match at a basic level. This is how you can protect yourself. This is how you can keep yourself safe in a ring. When I went to Team 3D, when I went to Florida, it was more about This is how you make sure that you are in shape. This is how you make sure you have the gas tank for no matter what a match demands of you. This is how, because it was 100 degrees. It was Orlando humidity. We had no AC in the school. So you had no choice but to get tough.
Yikes.
And I don't know if that was done deliberately or not, but that's just the situation that we were in at that point. And so I learned more the teamwork aspect, because there were like 20 or 30 of us there in a ring, by the ring every day. So we learned that. Come back, right? And after a few years and after a few months, not years, after a few months in Australia, I come back and I start working more directly with Mosh Pit Mike, with Thunder, and I learned more about wrestling from an entertainment standpoint, of learning how to actually be a wrestler and how to work with the crowd rather than just trying to beat them over the head with moves. So that's what I learned from them. And then now my current chapter with Chino Rivera, with Off the Ropes, I'm learning how to tell a much more intricate story, and learning how to build more of a roller coaster with a match, or build more of a roller coaster with a wrestling story that may take multiple matches. And so I'm learning that, and I'm learning more how to actually be a traveling wrestler from Gino. So I'm learning how to be more marketable, how to actually get to more places. And so if you pay attention, 2024 was the busiest year I've had in wrestling. So that's when I got down into Denver. That's when I spent more time in Phoenix. I got to Texas. I went to Iowa, and tons of that I owe, if not all of it, I owe primarily to Gino, because he helped me build a sense of confidence in myself to be able to actually go out and do that and be successful in those things. And so I've learned all those things in that order. And so that's what's been coming together and becoming the current version of Tony the Wrestler.
It's an exhaustive list of journeys and experiences there. How do you keep going through that? I know there's, in professional wrestling, there's something in the mindset to stay in the groove of it, stay, keep the enthusiasm, momentum. What's the most important aspect of keeping your mind right in that kind of setting so you can keep going?
So there's so many different roads for that question. The shortest one is to go a little bit further back before I discovered wrestling. And this is what made me want to be a wrestler, which is, I don't really have any memories of my childhood. I've got maybe like 3 or 4 memories. None of them are good. So we'll just leave it at that.
Fair enough.
And so wrestling was one of the first things that I was exposed to that made me feel good. And it gave me something that I was able to remember and not feel like I was just distracting myself. Like I grew up, like I was watching TV shows, or like Boy Meets World, Dragon Ball Z, Beast Wars, all sorts of stuff like that. So there's memories of me watching those, but I don't really have any memories of like how I felt watching it. I just remember that I watched it. So cool. But wrestling was the first thing that gave me a positive memory attached with a feeling. And so the one thing that keeps driving me for wrestling is the hope that I can deliver that to somebody else, and the hope that I can help somebody else create a good memory, whether it's just enjoying a match, right? Like I was in the first match Tommy Test watched live. So there's that. So it got him into wrestling, or if it's just a fan that just looks forward to, hey, I'm in Albuquerque, but I look forward to every month when I get to go see Duke City Championship Wrestling, because I get to go see Turbo Tony, or because I get to go see Pretty City Express or Valley, whoever. Just being able to be a part of somebody's carving of that memory and of that desire to be like, that's a highlight of my month, is getting to go see Duke City Championship Wrestling, or heading to YouTube every Saturday morning because they're like, it's time for a new episode of Duke City Championship Wrestling. So let's rewatch what I just went to go see live, and let's hear what the commentators have to say. And so that's one of the maybe hidden motivations I have behind wrestling, and that's the biggest one. The other maybe more selfish one is, now that I'm 40, there's an idea of what a 40-year-old wrestler is supposed to be like, right? It's supposed to be maybe not quite so sharp, maybe not quite so fresh anymore, because the years have worn them down, and the road and the miles have worn them down, and all the habits and lifestyle therein have worn them down. And I kind of want to be this example, one, to other wrestlers, but also just to other people, that you don't have to slow down with your age. Your age doesn't have to dictate your quality of life.
I can vouch for that. That's for sure.
You know, like I'm surrounded by people that are like, oh man, it sucks getting older, because they're in their 30s, they're in their 40s, they're in their late 20s, depending on who you talk to. And they're like, my back is killing me. And, my neck hurts. I slept like trash. And I'm sitting here, and I'm like, and I'm 40 on the nose. And I'm like, I regularly abuse my body. There's no other way to describe it. Like, I regularly abuse my body. I use it as a weapon. And short of, a handful of situations which are just inescapable by the nature of the business, I usually wake up the next day or the day after that, and I'm back to 100%, and I'm just good to go. Like, I don't need to do hot tubs, ice baths. I don't need to take tons of painkillers. There's exceptions, of course. There's some situations where they come in play, where they come in super handy, but it's not the norm, right? Usually people think that becomes the norm, or it's like, you can't eat that way anymore because you're not 20 anymore. I've been waiting for my metabolism to catch up to me for 20 years, by the way. Like, every time I get to, like, when I was 20 and people were watching how I ate, they're like, oh, enjoy it now, because when you're 25, it's going to catch up to you. And then I hit 25 and I was still eating that way. And it become, wait till you're 30. It's going to catch up to you. I hit 30, wait till you're 35. You see where this is going. Now I'm 40. What do you think people are saying?
Wait till you're 50? I don't know.
Yeah, basically. Guess what I've changed about my diet? Not really a whole lot. There's some things, but overall, it really hasn't changed much. And so the selfish part of me wants to be this example of, you, just because everybody says when you hit your late 30s or when you hit 40, it's downhill from there. There's all the aches, there's all the pains, there's all these, supposed things that happen when you get older. It's like, it's not necessarily the case. Like, if you don't take care of yourself, yeah, that's where you're going to end up. But if you do take care of yourself, you can hit 40 and still feel like you can keep up with the 20-year-olds. Most of them, like RJ Wild, I can't keep up with him, but I don't think I could keep up with him at 25 either. So, like, because he's just insane. But like, like the 40-year-old Tony would beat the crap out of 30-year-old Tony, both as wrestlers. Like, not even close. I literally feel better by the day now. Like, everybody feels like they're aging up, right? Like, they're getting older. I feel like I'm getting younger by the day as I just learn more and be a super nerd about fitness and all that.
You sound like you're going to end up wrestling when you're 65, looking just the same as you were like 20, 30 years before that.
I mean, look at Billy Gunn, though. So,
perfect example. Yeah.
So it's not, it's not unheard of, and I wouldn't be the first. So I wouldn't mind being, I don't think I'd be the second, because I'm sure there are other examples that I'm just not thinking of right now. But, you can look at any wrestler right now that's older than me, right? You look at Randy Orton, you look at AJ Styles, you look at Dustin Rhodes, you look at Jericho, you look at Kane. He had his renaissance before he left wrestling altogether.
Oh yeah.
So, like, it's a thing. Like, people are learning. They're figuring it out. They're figuring out how to take care of their bodies while they're beating the crap out of it, so that you can still have a good quality of life when you're done beating the crap out of it. Or you can just keep beating the crap out of it for longer. Whatever you want to do. And
you've got such knowledge of how to do that, and you're helping other people do that now.
Yeah,
both physically and mentally, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the Albuquerque area and you've been to a Duke City show, I'm sure you've seen Gabe Gambino, because he was the guitarist. He's the lead singer for Man High, who used to do our pre-shows. And we started working together last January, so we're about a year and a half in, and he's down 60 pounds right now.
He looks
So
great.
yeah, he started at 230, right around there somewhere, and he's down about 170, just under 170, and he's holding it, right? Like everybody, like he's holding under 170, and he feels great. He feels better than he's ever felt based off what he's told me. He's feeling better than he's ever felt. He's had more energy. He's more sound. He's able to do more for his family because he's in better shape. And it's and same thing, like he didn't have to upend everything. I just gave him a few tweaks to focus on, and we just he used me as a set of guardrails. Like when you go bowling, they put up the bumpers. Just use me as bumpers for the whole time.
That's awesome. So mental health is a big thing for you. And so you're the perfect person to ask this. How, in an industry where there's so much physicality, there's so much adrenaline, sometimes a little testosterone, things can get heated real fast in this kind of industry. What are the ways that you keep from getting caught up into something like that, to keep a positive mindset through your career?
So, do you mean getting caught up with like wrestling backstage type stuff, or just like the mental physical strain of wrestling, or just like a little bit of all the above?
Honestly, all the above, because it all kind of links together.
It does. Yeah. So
the difficult part of the industry, in my opinion. So
yeah, it all links together, and it's hard to separate it if you're not deliberate about it. So that's the first thing. So you have to decide that it's really worth taking care of. And once you decide that a thing is worth taking care of, you'll start doing the things that are necessary to take care of it. Like period. And it doesn't matter if it's a wrestling career, if it's your health, if it's your family, if it's your job, whatever it is. If you've decided that it's worth taking care of, you will now start doing the things that are necessary to take care of it. End of story. So one of the things that the short version of what I do to keep myself mentally resilient is I just, for the most part, I just don't put myself in like backstage wrestling politics. Like every job has their version of politics, right? Every time you just get a group of people involved in something, there's politics that come in handy, that come into play. And so I just don't give into it. I just look the other way, And something that I've been thinking on that lately is whether or not that's been hurting me more than helping me, because usually the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and I've usually been the quiet wheel. So that may be resulting in me maybe not getting some of the things that I want out of wrestling because I'm just not willing to talk about it, because I don't really feel like I want to step on somebody else to get what I want. And usually that's what it involves. When you're trying to get something that you want to that degree, sometimes it can involve stepping on somebody else on the way, and I don't really want to come across as that way at any point. So there's that point, there's that in the short term when it comes to just actually being in the locker rooms. The other side is how to take care of myself physically, mentally, in between shows, in between locker rooms, because to me, that sets the stage for how well you can handle yourself at a locker room is the days in between, right? Because usually if you have a fully packed wrestling schedule, you're wrestling somewhere Friday, you're wrestling somewhere Saturday, you're wrestling somewhere Sunday. Sometimes you wrestle in a couple places on those weekend days. But the point is, usually those 3 days at most, for the most part, is when you're wrestling. So you've still got Monday through Thursday to take care of everything else. So what are you doing Monday through Thursday? And are those things supportive of your Friday to Sunday? And what I've seen in a lot of cases, quite frankly, is most people's Monday through Thursday, this is spoken under the frame of wrestling, but can be applied to everywhere else. Most wrestlers Monday through Thursday do not support their Friday to Sunday. If you're not a wrestler, consider that your Monday through Friday doesn't support your Saturday to Sunday, or vice versa. Your Saturday to Sunday doesn't support your Monday to Friday. So things that I do when I'm not at a wrestling show are things like riding motorcycles, because that's super zen to me. It's super calming. It's my opportunity to just break away from the world, because I can't look at my phone. It's just me, the bike, and the road. I go into the mountains, so it's just me and the trees. So that's usually what I do on Sundays when I have the opportunity, or Saturdays when I have the opportunity. So guess where I was today, this morning, and guess where I'll be tomorrow morning. when it comes to the actual Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday, you have to ask yourself questions about how you're living those days. So how are you sleeping? How are you training? How are you exercising? How are you eating? Because if you're doing those things like trash, it's really not a surprise that you end up getting hurt at a wrestling show. Like it's really not,
Makes
like
sense.
this is going to come off sort of callous, and this is where Antoine Giovanni peeks out of the box a little bit willfully.
All right.
But I don't care, because there are exceptions. There are always exceptions to generalities, and what I'm about to say is in fact a generality. So take it as such. But if you're not in a gym Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday, if you're not eating well, if you're not sleeping well, I'm not that surprised when you get hurt in a show on Friday or on Saturday. I'm just not. Like when you say, "Oh, I hurt my leg and I was just doing something small," it's like, okay, were you doing things to make your leg strong in the first place? No. Okay, well, I don't know what to tell. Pro wrestling is a hard sport. Like, regardless of how it works, it's a brutally physical sport. It's not ballet. Sorry. And
can't beat an old
I don't
cliche.
even really know where that cliche came from, because if you talk to ballerinas, like, that's not easy either.
No.
So it's like, like, people ask me why. Like, people ask me, this is something that I've been getting asked a lot this year, because I went through that insane transformation from October to January, because I frankly hated the way I looked in October.
It's an amazing transformation, by the way.
It's a great transformation. And I've been holding it for 6 months at this point, going on 7, which is awesome, because I wanted to prove that I could do that. Because usually everybody can lose weight and then 1-2 months later it comes back. So far it hasn't come back. And physically I'm way more resilient. Like, I'm stronger than I've almost ever been, but my body's more resilient to just brutality. It recovers faster. It doesn't go down to injury very often, and when it does, it comes back pretty fast. People ask me, well, what do you do? Like, how do you do that? And it goes back to that Monday through Thursday, to that Monday through Friday. Like, what am I doing there? So I'm eating super well. I track all my food. So I make sure that I'm getting enough protein, because protein is what your body needs to rebuild anything, not just muscles, but skin, hair, nails, eyes, all of it. Like, that all comes from protein. So if you're not getting enough protein, your body is not going to be strong enough. So, like, again, it comes down to, like, well, you eat like trash and you're surprised you got hurt. I'm not. You're surprised you got sick when protein provides the building blocks for your immune system. I'm not. Like, if you need a ride to the hospital because you got hurt, I will take you to the hospital for sure. Like, I'm not going to leave you behind the LRA to die. But
yeah, of course.
And I'm also not going to give you the lecture on the way to the hospital of, like, I told you so, you should have been eating your protein, like, blah, blah. I'm not going to do that either. But it's like, okay. It's like when somebody tells me that somebody died in a motorcycle crash because they were going 130 miles an hour, they weren't wearing gear. I'm like, what do you like? I'm sorry your friend did dumb shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know what to tell you. Sorry, like, it sucks that you lost a friend, sure, but, like, were they doing everything to keep themselves alive? No. Sorry.
Just like anything else in life, pro wrestling, you have to prepare for what could happen. You hope and pray that it doesn't happen, but you got to prepare and make sure that you're doing everything you can to make sure it doesn't actually.
Yeah. Are you preparing yourself so that if something does go wrong, you're in the best position to come out in good shape?
Yeah. And and then that leads me to, you talk about getting hurt or possibilities of getting hurt. Have you ever had one of those matches, or is that match come up in your mind where you think, man, I might get hurt in this match of what's coming up?
So there was actually the second anniversary show, the tag team elimination match. It was Turbo Test. It was Pretty City Express. It was the Firsties. It was, who else was in there? We had Saleh and Ronan. I think that was everybody. I hope I didn't leave anybody out, but I think that was everybody.
It was supposed to be Sky High.
It was supposed to be Sky High. I
They
remember
weren't
that.
able to make that one.
Yeah, they couldn't make it. So I think those are the 5 original teams, became the 4 because Sky High couldn't make it.
Mhm.
And there was a point at the end of the match it was the end of the match where Tommy does what Tommy does, beats the crap out of Class, leaves him down in the middle of the ring. Awesome. And so when I'm in a match and somebody's there laying down on their back in the middle of the ring, it's time for a Swanton Bomb. So I go and I climb the rope and I get ready for a Swanton. And right as I'm about to jump, Devin Reno, Class's partner, reaches in, pulls him out of the ring. So now they're both just standing on the floor. They're trying to get their bearings straight again, right? So I'm like, all right. The crowd hates that. I hate that because I'm already in position. But I'm here. I'm looking this way into the ring. They're right over here on the floor. So I just do what any sane person would do. And I just turn this way. And I size up where they are. I've never done this before. I'm like, this could go really well or it could go really terribly.
You just said sane person, so keep that in mind.
Yeah. And so it's funny because if you watch any footage of this moment, there's a clear delay. There's a delay between me looking at them and me actually just jumping because I'm playing back every decision I've ever made in my life to figure out how I got to this point where I'm about to do what I'm about to do. And it felt in the moment, it felt like it was a 10-minute conversation with myself of considering whether or not I wanted to do it, about what I could just do instead, about anything like that. And eventually I just came to, I was like, well, the lights are on, the cameras are already recording, the crowd already wants it. So I'm like, I got to do it at this point. And so I jumped from the top rope, Swanton Bomb, through Pretty City Express all the way to the floor. And I almost went over the guardrail. I almost overshot them and just went straight into like the first, second row of the chairs right by that lighting truss. And so there was that moment where I was like, this could be a thing, that this could go poorly really easily. So there was that. There was also the ladder match with Hobo Hank back in 2020. What was that? 2023?
That was
October.
Yeah, it's 23, I believe it was.
October of 2023. At the end of that tournament for the heavyweight championship, it was me and Hobo Hank. We were in a ladder match. That was my first ever ladder match. And
ever.
Oh. It was my first specialty match ever. So like never done a table match, never done a hardcore match, never done a street fight, anything like that. The ladder match was the first time I broke that can open.
It's very surprising.
And in the weeks leading up to it, I felt fine about it. I went in and I did what any wrestler would do. And I was like, all right, what are some great ladder matches that I could watch and just kind of learn what they did and figure out some things to look out for, some things to try to steal, to try to help improve my odds of success. And then we got to the El Rey the day before when we were setting up the ring and we were hanging the championship. We were trying to get a gauge for how low we needed to hang it from the ceiling. And I remember looking up and I was like, I'm supposed to be up there tomorrow. That's all right. That's cool. We've never done that. We tested a ladder in the ring and I stood on the ladder and I was like, wow, this ladder is completely unstable. So that's cool too. That's awesome. That's going to be not dangerous at all.
At least it was a real ladder.
At least it was a real ladder. And so I was like, all right, cool. I think I'm cool. I think I have at least a good idea of what I might be in for. Except for we have the match the next night and Hobo and I are outside and he gives me a suplex onto a ladder that's on the floor. So there's that. That was the first time I ever hit a ladder. So that was a quick rip the Band-Aid off moment. So there was that. Later on in that match, he tossed me into a ladder. I don't remember if it was the same ladder or if we'd already broken that one and moved on to the next one. But he had a ladder up in the corner. actually thinking about it, I probably put the ladder in the corner, and I might have gone to throw him in the ladder, and he was wiser to it than I thought he was, and he just switched it up on me and tossed me into the ladder. And so there was that match too, where I was like, this could be the crowd's gonna love it either way, but this could be real hazardous to my health. So most notably were those two experiences, those two moments.
And so far, that's all you want to do.
You know,
oh no, he's got aspirations, doesn't he?
when I started with wrestling, I was always like, I was always the wrestler that was like, all right, I'll wrestle. I don't want to do hardcore. I don't want to do ladder matches. I don't want to do table matches. And that's why it took me so long in my career to actually do one. Because I was able to stick to that for better or for worse. And then I did that first ladder match first. I did that ladder match with Hobo Hank because I haven't done one since. And I was like, all right, that was actually kind of fun. We might play with that a little bit more because we didn't have a lot of time. So if we had more time, I might be willing to do it again. So that was cool. And then when I started doing the Swanton, I've been doing it for years in practice, and I would go to a trampoline park and I would practice it there, just jumping into foam pits. And I was like, cool, I got like easy move for me, right? And then I did the first one last year in front of a crowd in that June show, I think. It was the first time Tommy and I teamed up. And I did it. And I was like, all right, cool, I'll do it. I could use that as a finisher. I could do that off the top rope, but I really don't want to do like any crazy versions of it where it's like off a ladder or like off a stage or like off the post to the floor. And then we get to this past May and I'm like, here we are again, up against the boundary. What are we going to do?
And you didn't do it.
and I did it. And I was like, well, okay, this could be fun too. So who knows where the combination of we could probably have a good idea of the combination of a longer ladder match with riskier swantons could end up.
Well, you being in not just a singles division, but tag divisions, I mean, the possibilities are kind of endless.
There's a lot of writing on the walls for where that could go. There's a lot of history that dictates where that could go.
Among many different promotions that you tend to go to. I mean, ooh, you feel the creeps there.
a little. It just got a little warm over here. So, But yeah, and it's not to say, and I've been pretty lucky when it comes to injuries, right? I haven't had anything that required any surgery or any getting cut open or anything like that. I've last year I hurt both hands at consecutive Rocky Mountain Pro shows. Nothing that anybody else did wrong. It was all my doing. I just didn't think about something, and when I landed, my thumb just went in a direction it wasn't supposed to go. Yeah, so those took forever to heal because fingers take a long time to heal, and hurt my not spine, but I pulled my back in a match last year too. Just I went to go take a move and it didn't go quite the way that I thought it was going to go in my head, and so my chest landed on the apron, and then my feet basically tried meeting my ears. So I tried to accidentally scorpion myself.
Ouch.
And yeah, and I got to the back eventually, and everybody back there, as soon as I got through the curtain, they like stopped me and they're like, "Oh my God, are you okay? Like, how are you walking?" And I'm like, "Guys, I'm fine. Like, this is okay, And me being me with this like idea that I have of like what I just shared a few minutes ago of like, guys, like the way I train, like it's fine, like my back's fine, it'll be okay, all that, right? I go sit down, I change, and I'm sitting for like 15, 20 minutes, and I go to stand up and I'm like, got it. Cool. This is gonna be a rough night. So like just whatever was going on in my back just swelled up. But like even with that, like 3 days later, I was back to normal. It's like I've been immensely lucky when it comes to injuries. Like I don't have anything. I'm checking right now, but I don't have anything going on that's chronic that has been like from a match and it just won't go away. Probably will never go away. Like I don't have that. I don't have the the elbow pain from a suplex gone wrong or from an elbow drop that was like 8 years ago, and it just won't heal. Like I don't have any of that. And I could say luck, but what I mean by luck is it's this new definition of luck that I really like, which is the combination of opportunity and preparation. And so the half of that you can control is the preparation, right? It's like, how do you take care of your body to make sure that it can handle the stress and it can recover from an injury if things do go wrong. You could probably just say when it comes to wrestling, because it's guaranteed, versus the opportunities that you create for your body to recover. Like, are you one of the people that you take an injury, right? Let's just use the elbow, because that's what I said earlier. You take an injury to the elbow, and so what you do is you then do nothing with the elbow for a couple weeks because it's just too painful. It just hurts too much. You don't want to make it worse, which is valid, right? That's a valid concern. And so you don't do anything with it. You don't exercise it. You just kind of let it hang out, right? The issue with that is the way that the body works is when you stop using a part of your body, you start eating away that muscle, because muscle costs a lot of energy and your body's trying to keep you alive. So it'll start removing that muscle, and over time you'll start losing that range of motion, because if something happens and it becomes painful for you to go full extension with your arm, naturally what you'll do is you'll just come here and you'll just stop extending all the way because it's painful to go further. What'll happen is, as you keep doing that, your body it'll essentially just start forgetting parts of that range of motion. So it'll forget that you could go straight in the first place. So when you just don't do it, you don't maintain the strength that's needed to maintain a straight arm. And that just ends up gradually getting worse over time. And you end up just moving your arm less and less, to the point where like you can basically come from here to here. And that's all you can do with your arm, because this hurts and that hurts because you stopped doing stuff at that range of motion, which is a super common story.
Yeah, I'd say so. Anything you want to touch on before we cut out?
So, the reason I take everything to fitness, right? Because if you talk to me long enough, which is usually more than like 6 minutes, I will connect something to fitness. And the reason I do that is because to me, everything comes down to fitness. Everything in life comes down to fitness. Meaning, the way that you present yourself and the way that you move through life comes from your fitness. If you're not healthy, if you're not strong enough to do the things in your life, you're not going to show up for those things well. You're like, if you're weak, if you don't have energy, you can't play with your kids. If you're tired all the time, you're going to suck at work. But if you're strong all the time, if you've got tons of energy, now you can play with your kids as much as they want. Now you don't have to figure out how to get out of helping your friends move because the couch is just too heavy and it's going to aggravate your hurt knee. So like that's the simple part of it.
That's just wisdom in a bottle right there. So
yeah,
I'm trying to do that myself.
So people are like, well, why are you so, people go, why are you so obsessed with fit? Like, that's why. Because your body is how you interact with the world. There's no other way that you interact with the world than with your body. Even if you go on the internet, you're still using your thumbs. You're still using your body. You still need a clear mind to be able to communicate your thoughts and words on the internet.
Absolutely.
And if that's not strong, if that's not healthy, if it's not vibrant, like what quality of anything do you think you can put out into the world with a weak body? And I don't mean, because everybody tries to strawman this and take this to the extreme. No, I don't mean you need to walk around looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 80s. You don't need to be Mark Henry levels of world's strongest man strength. I just mean you just need to be strong enough for whatever your life demands.
That's absolutely right. Well, Tony, thanks for joining us. Before we go, where can we find you at, man?
So you can find me. I think we should do a part 2. So if we do a part 2, you can find me here when we get to that part 2. But until the part 2, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me at Tony Davis. You can find me on Instagram at Tony Davis Coaching. So if you want to talk to me there about fitness, you want to talk to me about wrestling, about motorcycles, about Formula One, about anything, you can hit me there. And you can always catch me at the next upcoming Duke City Championship Wrestling show.
And over at Phase One Pro as well. You might
And
see
Phase
him
One Pro.
in the area, as well as quite a few other places.
Yeah.
If you find him on social media, you'll be able to keep up with where he's going. So,
Phase One Pro, August 16th. By the way, I know we're trying to wrap up, but
go for it.
the guy that I'm wrestling in August at Phase One is the guy that I also had my debut match against September of 2009. So we wrestled then in my debut. We've not wrestled since, and we're running it back next month.
Doing classic callback.
Classic
That's
callback.
awesome.
So
You'll have to
get your tickets, see how that turns out. I mean, you see how I wrestle, so I already know how it's going to turn out. I got my ideas, so you know.
Well, thanks for joining us, Tony. We'll see you soon, and for all of you joining us, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys later.